Hello and welcome to Learning Python tutorial for beginners. In this video, we are going to talk about generators in Python and yield keyword in Python. So we will also see when to use yield instead of return in Python. But first of all, let's understand this code. So I have created two Python files. One is generator.py and another is main.py. And in this generator.py, you can see one function definition. Inside this, you have only three statements: yield 1, yield 2, and yield 3. Whereas on right hand side, we are importing this function in this main.py, and we are iterating over this function. So we are using this for loop. And, so we are basically iterating over the value returned by this simple generator function, and we are printing. So you can think of this function as a range function that we have used previously, something like that. Range, you remember? Yeah. So this would be equivalent of this. So something similar we are doing here, right? So first of all, let me run this and then I will explain. Okay. So you can see 1, 2, 3 is printed, nothing fancy. Now let's understand what exactly the code is getting executed. So we have seen when we want to return something from the function, we use return, correct? Return keyword. So yeah, something like this, that return, correct? But here you can see yield. If you have learned programming, if you have done in programming language like Java, so then you would know that this yield means this function is suspended. So what happens is, let's go line by line. So first of all, for value in this function, we go inside this function call, and inside this function call, when this yield 1 happens, this simple generator function is suspended. Okay, and it sends this value. In this case, it's 1. It sends this value to main.py. So it returns 1. It suspends its execution, and then it is going to print that value, that is 1. Now again, this for loop will iterate again. It will again call this simple generator function. Now what happens is, this function doesn't start its execution from line number 2. Instead, if you remember, it was suspended, so it will continue its execution from this line number 3. Again, we have yield function, yield statement, and now we have value 2. So it will return this value 2 to again this caller function main.py, and it will print the value of 2. This function is again suspended once this value is returned back to this simple generator function in this for loop. This print once this value is printed, and it will go on. So the main point I want to explain here is the yield statement. It basically suspends the function execution, and when we go back to that function, it will continue execution from there on. So in a nutshell, I will explain, I will repeat again. The yield statement suspends the function execution and sends a value back to the caller, but retains enough state to enable the function to resume where it left off. When the function resumes, it continues its execution immediately after the last yield run. This allows its code to produce a series of values over the time rather than computing them at once and sending them back like a list. So if you want to produce a list, then what will happen? You will compute all the values together and you will return that list, and it will take a lot of memory, correct? So instead of that, this yield allows a code to produce a series of values over time rather than, so we don't need to compute them once. We don't need to send them as a list. So if I have to rewrite this function using return keyword, then I have to use something like this. All right, it is producing the same result, but imagine that we are having dynamic values here. So it is creating this list upfront and returning it. So the better approach would be to have this yield. So that's the reason this yield function is used while generating list or data which has plenty of elements. So that's the reason it is also called as generator function. Generator in Python is a function that returns an iterator using the yield keyword. A generator function in Python is defined like a normal function as we have seen, but whenever it needs to generate a value, it does so with a yield keyword rather than return. If the body of a definition contains yield, then the function automatically becomes a Python generator function. All right. So this is how this is simple, and this is we have also created simple generator function. We can also have loop here like this. So we can have something like this. While num is less than n. All right. So this is simple generator function with this parameter. So yeah, this is about generator function and yield keyword. Thanks for watching my video. Please like, share, subscribe so that my videos will get more and more reach, and many students who want to learn Python, they will be able to watch these videos. Thanks for watching.